Welcome to a Legendarium special about Tycho Brahe, the first great astronomer. In this episode, we will talk about the man who charted 777 stars without a telescope. Tycho Brahe was born on December 14th, 1546 in Knudstrup, a town in the Kingdom of Denmark. Tycho's father served as a privy councillor and later became governor of Helsingborg Castle, which controlled the main waterway to the Baltic Sea, a very important post. His wealthy and childless uncle Jørgen suddenly abducted Tycho at a very young age. His parents, knowing that Tycho would have better opportunities with his fabulously wealthy uncle, allowed this to stand. And after young Tycho overcame the initial shock, he grew up happily at his uncle Jørgen's castle. Uncle Jørgen also financed young Tycho's education, which began with the study of law at the University of Copenhagen from 1559 to 1562. 3 events would turn Tycho from the law to astronomy. The first event became a total eclipse of the sun, predicted for August 21st, 1560. Such a prediction seemed marvelous to the 14-year-old law student, and when Tycho saw it for himself, he never forgot the event. His subsequent student life divided between his daytime lectures on the law, done in response to the wishes of his uncle Jørgen, and Tycho's nighttime studies of the stars. His professor of mathematics provided him with the only printed astronomical book available, the Almagest of Ptolemy, by then nearly 2,000 years old. Other teachers helped Tycho to construct small globes on which he plotted star positions and crossstaffs with which he estimated the angular separation of the stars. In 1562, Tycho's uncle sent him to the University of Leipzig, where he studied until 1565. Another important event occurred in Tycho's life during August 1563 when he made his first recorded observation, a conjunction or overlapping of Jupiter and Saturn. Almost immediately, Tycho found the existing almanacs grossly inaccurate. Even the Copernican tables proved several days off in predicting this event. And in his youthful enthusiasm, Tycho decided to devote his life to accumulating accurate observations of the heavens so he could correct existing tables. Between 1565 and 1570, Tycho traveled widely throughout Europe, studying at Wittenberg, Rostock, Basel, and Augsburg. At each place, he obtained new mathematical and astronomical instruments, including a huge quadrant. In 1566, Tycho quarreled with Manderup Parsberg, his third cousin, who was also a fellow student at Rostock, over who was the better mathematician. And instead of a math-related contest to settle the matter, the two fought with swords, and Parsberg sliced off Tycho's nose. Tycho and Parsberg became good friends after the duel, but Tycho had to wear a prosthetic nose made of brass for the rest of his life. Later, he claimed it to be made of silver or even gold. Tycho Brahe also kept a pet elk, more than 7 feet long and weighing in at 500 pounds. Notwithstanding, Brahe took his elk to parties where both he and the elk became drunk. His beloved pet died when it became intoxicated to the point of falling down a flight of stairs. After inheriting both his uncle's and his father's estates, the 25-year-old Tycho amassed 1% of Denmark's wealth. He then settled in Scania and built a small observatory on land owned by a relative. Here occurred the third and most important event in Tycho's scientific life. On November 11th, 1572, he suddenly saw a new star, brighter than Venus and where no star should be, in the constellation Cassiopeia. He carefully observed the new star and found it lay beyond the moon. That placed it in a crystalline sphere that contained the fixed stars, or at least so 16th century astronomists believed. To humankind at the time, a supernova became a disquieting discovery because it showed the universe far from unchanging yet constant. Men at the time believed earthly peace to be governed by the stars, themselves perfect and unchanging, and designed by God. Just as there was trouble on earth, could there also be trouble in the heavens? Tycho Brahe published his findings on the new star, which established him as an astronomer known across the continent. Next, Tycho Brahe married a peasant's daughter named Kirstine in 1573. By doing so, the noble-born Tycho shocked and scandalized most of his contemporaries. Though he seldom mentioned Kirstine in his writings, he likely wanted a companion who could manage his household without meddling in court intrigues and putting his work at risk. Tycho and Kirstine had 8 children, 6 of whom survived him. After writing about the supernova in the constellation Cassiopeia, Tycho built a large observatory for regular observations. When word spread that he would build this new observatory in Germany, King Frederick II kept him in Denmark by granting him title to the island of Ven. He also financed Tycho's observatory and laboratory. Tycho called his observatory Uraniborg, after the muse of astronomy. Within this castle of science, one found chemical laboratories in the basement, an indoor fountain, and modern sanitary latrines made for a clean work environment. The observatory looked like a fortress with a castle, a trapdoor, a dungeon, and even a torture chamber. Apart from his research assistants, he also had soldiers and servants, each with their own quarters. A man of taste and refinement, Tycho brought in Augsburg craftsmen to build the best instruments and Italian artists to decorate his observatory. Surrounded by scholars and visited by learned travelers from across Europe, Tycho and his staff went about correcting every known astronomical table. Like King Frederick wanted, Tycho Brahe made Denmark the center of the astronomical world. However, King Frederick II died in 1588, and his son Christian IV proved less interested in astronomy. Frustrated, Tycho left Ven in 1597 and settled in Prague 2 years later under the patronage of Emperor Rudolf II. There, Tycho won new fame for his sidekick Jeppe, a dwarf who sat at Brahe's feet during mealtimes. Tycho believed that Jeppe had psychic and precognitive powers, and he slipped him morsels of food while dining. In Germany, Tycho continued working with instruments he salvaged from Uraniborg, but his health began to decline. By the time he died on October 24, 1601, Tycho Brahe completed a comprehensive study of the solar system and accurate positions for more than 777 fixed stars. Though a great astronomer, Tycho hoarded his data during his lifetime, fearing others would take credit for his work. His assistant during his final years, Johann Kepler, fought with Tycho's heirs over his star charts. Kepler won the battle and laid the groundwork for Isaac Newton and Galileo, who formed the 3 laws of planetary motion. However, rumors spread in Kepler's lifetime that he poisoned his master to obtain the charts, and other rumor mongers claimed that Emperor Rudolf poisoned Tycho Brahe for sleeping with the Empress. Nonetheless, Tycho on the Moon and Tycho Brahe on Mars are 2 craters named after the great Danish astronomer, a reminder of his titanic legacy. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.